Let's just wait a couple of minutes until everyone shows up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Al.
How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you doing?
Actually, good. It's
hello, everybody.
I mean, hi, Andrea.
Again.
Hello again. Hi. Yeah, actually, yeah, pretty good, I would say. We are probably the same as you guys, maybe not as intense as you, but in a mode of reconfiguration and trying to get to terms with current situation and what it is that we can do.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of flux going on, but I wouldn't say it's all negative. There's also, I mean, like I would also say there's quite a lot of potential, and so we are really forced to think about stuff. And you know, it also has its good sides, I would say.
Right.
What's happening on your end, Bill? I can imagine there's a lot of dynamics going on at the US Co-op at this moment.
Yeah, like you're speaking to, there's low level anxiety and trepidation, and but like you're also referring to, this is a period of refinement and being focused on what is actually going to move the meter and what is truly important, and getting, people and teams to be really centered on those elements. It's so, it's a difficult period of time for any organization to go through, but for those who can stick it out and make it through, it becomes an important point in the history of an organization. And hopefully, things are going to go our way, and that we want them to, and that we'll be looking back on this at some point in time and feel good about it.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so too. So, how does the developer team? How does that transition going on? Can you tell us a little bit about it? I'm really interested.
That's gone really well. We got the vast majority of the developers signed on contractually now directly with the co-op. I've only got one more that is still in process, and that's only because he's trying to establish himself as a business now in Poland, and then we will contract directly with then his business instead of him as an individual. So that's just, some typical steps that you kind of go through in that process. So I'm not concerned with that. And then I am working on some job descriptions right now for some other targeted hiring that we're looking to do in the realm of Casper engineering as well as QA. So the idea, I mean, very much the idea is centering on the engineering and the developers to make sure that this platform is going to get produced and out to the market.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But that means there's a developer team in place and already trying to just move on.
Right. Okay. Ned, I see that you're on. Do you want to add anything to that, Ned?
Hey guys, sorry.
Hello, Ned.
Hi, Ned.
How is everybody?
Hi, Ned.
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks, Ned. How are you?
I'm doing good. We have a lot of fires here in California, and the air quality is really struggling. You know, you can't keep your windows open. And anyway, I'm also doing a lot of stuff going on. So I apologize. What would you like me to comment on?
Well,
metaphoric fires and real fires.
Right.
Yeah, so, okay, so we're still working on the feature set for mainnet, right? That is, you know, Monday was Veterans Day. I can't say anything about that, but Monday was Veterans Day. And yesterday, Deanna was off. So today we're going to huddle. I mean, we're pretty close. We need to have actually a bunch more meetings with the devs and with Greg, you know, to hash it out, the final list, but we are getting close. We think we have a fix to get testnet back up and running. So that's really good news. And hopefully that will happen. They're doing a pull request, and hopefully we'll get clearer sight, or maybe even by the time the community meeting starts, but I'm not sure, because we do have to run through some tests. But you know, things are moving along. You know, still talking to a lot of the portfolio companies, and also working with the marketing group to kind of get the web page to a point where it should be. So there's a lot of balls in the air here, over here. There is no doubt that it is tough times, and so we need to all, you know, kind of pull together as much as possible. Make sure, also, you know, really need to make sure that the messaging we give out to the community is correct.
And Ned, yeah, please let us know if there's anything we can help extending those messages to the community over here in Europe. Please let us know, because it's actually something we are, of course, we are following everything that's going on, and we are talking to people, but as soon as there's any, I don't know, official statements, we'll be glad either helping to draft that, if that's possible, if there's help needed for that, or helping to just inform the people over here that care about the project, and just make sure that everyone is informed in a, let's say, in an orchestrated manner.
Yeah, so the two big black holes for me are storage. What does that really mean on our blockchain? So I posted, actually, if you guys can get to the Collab Discord channel, there's a Rolang.js channel, I'm sorry, the Rolang server, and inside the server there's a channel, Rolang.js, and I've posted 2 videos of 2 conversations that Josh and I have had, talking about how things are stored in the tuple space, and we've run some proofs with some Rolang code, and so for the more technically oriented, I would say I found them really interesting. And so that would be good, but we definitely have to discuss storage more, and then the costs. So these are kind of like the 2 areas that.
Just a heads up on that, Ned. I've been experimenting with the different versions of our node, and I find that the storage strategy seems to be different between different versions, even between the 18th and the 28th. So I think to identify the real issues there, we're probably going to have to wait till we can test the testnet version.
Yeah, so yeah, that's really interesting. So okay, so yeah, we think we understand it.
I'm sure there's still lots of stuff. Let's not go into too much detail here, because I don't think that we can help on the technical front. But what we just want to offer is, as I said, is just help in getting the word out. And as soon as you feel there's some messaging you would like to share, please make sure to share it with us, and we'll gladly distribute it on our own channels. So we do have a nice opportunity to meet our community Friday 23rd. So that is Friday in 1 week, where we'll have our RChain Europe event. And it's pretty much a decentralized governance learning journey that we are going to offer. And we have a really nice lineup of speakers that will come over in that evening. And I think there's a lot of, like a lot of stuff we've been discussing over the past weeks and months will be reflected during that event. So we have people from the Peer-to-Peer Foundation coming over, people from the Collective One project, Joachim, founder of YOLOCOM, of this really interesting identity project just around the corner here in Berlin. Yeah, so we have quite a number of really good people. Thomas Dönnebrink from WeShare will be there. Francesca Pick from Greater Than. It's a collaborative finance project online. So lots of good stuff. We'll make sure to live stream it and share it with you guys. And of course, people will be interested in hearing what's going on in the co-op, how is everyone? And we just want to make sure to help, informing people, but also giving everyone an idea of what it is that they can expect and possibly also contribute or help. So that's
I have one point to add for the meetup, which is happening next Friday. In behalf of one of the speakers and contributors, Ella mentioned Peppo already, who's really eager to join with his own participation, but also with his DGOF tool called Collective One. It's basically a decision-making tool and also a co-budgeting tool. He's really eager to join the RChain ecosystem, and therefore is looking forward to meet some programmers or to get some hold on the tech space of RChain. So now that Bill mentioned that there are programmers in Poland, I'm wondering, is this only one resource or even more? And could we invite them for the meetup? Because initially we planned a hackathon, but it's canceled due to the illiquid situation at the moment. But nevertheless, Peppo, he's so keen on even organizing an own event to meet up with people who are involved with RChain, testnet, mainnet, Rolling, whatever comes from this side. Are there any resources on our side here we could draft? There's something coming up in the chat.
all I know is that Tom from Poland is in this call, but that's about it.
But the one programmer Bill mentioned, I don't know, is he in the US or is he in Poland by any chance?
As far as I know, that this dev team is based in Poland. Yeah, it could be interesting to invite them as well, because it's not that far to come over. Yeah, it's actually
programmers in the Croatian RChain.
Excuse me?
I think Croatia RChain has some programming. I can't remember. Ned, you remember? Do you know who's overseas on their side that is programmer?
Well, there's a bunch in Poland.
Yeah, we were just wondering whether we could invite them to come over on Friday the 23rd. Whether they would be interested in coming over for the meetup, and also maybe giving a little bit, providing some insights into Rolang, because we do have already a number of participants that would be interested in just, having some insights.
It doesn't need to be a full tech presentation, but some speakers expressed already the wish to have a deeper insight into Rolang, especially since they want to be part of the ecosystem.
What time is this?
Hi, Greg. It starts at 6 p.m. Central European Time.
Okay. So that would be 8 in the morning.
Well, yeah, it's exactly, on your end, I think it's, no, it's 9. It's 9.
9?
Yeah, we have 9 hours time difference.
Oh, I thought it was 10.
Yeah. So it's 9, in Seattle, 9 in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that conflicts with another conversation that I have. Otherwise, I'd be willing to. I mean, I could speak for 30 minutes at 8 o'clock.
That might actually be a nice idea, Greg, to maybe have you, and maybe it's not so much about, you know, a tech presentation, a remote tech presentation, but maybe it would just be, it would be really nice to have you saying hi to everyone, and just maybe we could come up with a couple of questions.
But I mean, as the inventor of Rolang, I'm more than happy to field questions about Rolang.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just wonder, you know, I just wonder whether we can really, whether it makes sense to plan a 30-minute slot in a conference that is that's not so much tech oriented. It would rather be interesting to have like a more comprehensive presentation, and ideally on the spot, because I don't know if that really works remotely. But yeah, I mean, maybe it does. I don't know. But
Sure. I mean, I can be flexible and adaptable, whatever the group really would like. But I could certainly give 30 minutes from 8 a.m. to 8:30.
8 a.m. to 8:30.
Which I think would be 5 to 5:30. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the official program starts at 6, but nonetheless, we'll have some people maybe coming in earlier. You know what, Greg? Let's discuss that. We'll make sure to send you some more infos, because I think it would be really nice to have you there and hear from you. But let's just organize how we can best integrate that in the program, because we officially start at 6.
The other way is to look at the other end. How long are you running for?
Yeah, we are running for, I think, 10 p.m. in the evening. But you know, I was just thinking it might be, we might offer a number of people that are interested in learning a little bit more about the row calculus and Rolang, like a remote conversation with you before the official program. We could maybe offer that. Maybe that could be interesting for Peppo and Collective One.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's good to know that you would be available, and that we could maybe frame this more technical discussion before we start the official program.
Okay.
That could be a good idea.
I mean, again, the other possibility is towards the end of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have some availability.
Okay.
Towards the end of the evening as well.
Yeah. So that then would be around 1 p.m. your time.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So,
okay.
So if I did, I could even do something at 11.
Okay.
Which would be what 2 hours early, so like 8 p.m.
Okay. You know what, Greg? We're gonna ask those people of whom we know that they would appreciate this kind of conversation and to get a little bit more in-depth knowledge. And that would actually be amazing. So we will ask them, and we get back to you. And so we schedule a slot then. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Good. Thank you. Other than that, let's just maybe have a quick overview about the expression of wish work group that also met yesterday. And I've seen that Steve is here. Steve Rost-Halbert. Hi, Steve. Good to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Good to see you. And
you. we had a great meeting yesterday.
Yes,
it was really good, actually.
Heard about it. Please let us know what's.
Yeah, and yeah, the minutes. I'll put a link into. Put a link on Discord. I'm going to be publishing a bunch of stuff on Discord, so you'll see it on the Discord channels anyway. A bit later today, and in that you'll get a sense of what happened in the meeting. But the one thing that I wanted to say is Andreas pulled the rug from under me. So I'm used to running these sorts of meetings and facilitating in a W3C way. where you have a kind of IRC chat. So we didn't have an IRC chat, we just had a shared Google Doc. And there I am typing the minutes as we go, trying to summarize, you know, so any of you that got involved in, I know Greg was involved in Woosdale, so he probably remembers those days. You know, and so we got to the agenda where it says approve minutes. And Andreas said, well, why do you need to approve the minutes? Yeah, and nobody had ever asked that question before. And I thought, brilliant. I didn't have an answer. So I've been thinking about it. And this demonstration of where we all are now is a great demonstration of what decentralized collective decision-making is all about. Because in today's age, because we can record this, the minutes have there's a different life cycle for minutes. What are minutes for? So so the process of expression of wish and understanding how to work ourselves is causing us to question old school ideas of thinking, like minutes need to be approved. Well, they don't. But they do serve a purpose, right? So I don't know if any of you, I know that Nick sits there doggedly and listens to some of the recordings. I'm sure Nick moves the cursor up and down as
Not
well.
all of them. Oh my
Yeah.
God. My
He doesn't
life
have
isn't
time.
that long.
He hasn't slept for weeks, you know.
I need I'm employing advanced concurrency techniques.
Yeah, and Greg, he's joining up all of your speeches into a single record.
I've
And
got
we're going to publish
three
it. We're going to call it Soliloquy Greg. Because we know you can, and we're going to put it to music. But no, to be serious, so what dawned on me as I got onto the meeting today, because of what Andreas did to us yesterday, was I think we should publish. So we publish the recordings. This is why recordings are good. But you should also publish the minutes, and the minutes are a convenient summary of whatever the sentiment was or the actions that arise from a meeting, probably more the actions than the sentiment. And they're just that quick view, because nobody wants to sit through 60 minutes scrolling up and down, trying to figure out what the actions were, right? So actually having that written summary is a really good idea. So as you can see, Nick doesn't do that. And then I thought, well, you know, the whole voting mechanism, my God, you know, if you actually posted the video recording and the minutes, then you never need to approve the minutes. It's irrelevant. What you need to do is check how many people pressed, yes, I agree, on the minutes. And you never need to have approved minutes on an agenda again. We might have is a discussion about a disagreement that somebody wants to raise about the minutes that were recorded against the recording, and then take that in a meeting. But the reason I want to explain that is it's an illustration of the active thought process that is going into expression of wish, and how we want to govern ourselves, how we want to reach consensus. So yesterday's meeting was pretty good. From that perspective, I think we tidied up a lot of things. And then Ayla, I saw an email from you earlier about the Labour Party. So, you know, the guys were also talking about funding Labour Party. You know, is there a way of maybe doing some consulting to help some of these organisations? Because we're learning an awful lot about this stuff. And Andreas is, you know, he'd be approaching world's leading expert at this rate, or something close to it. So, you know, we have a body of skill and very open minds that we could potentially offer in a consultative capacity. So if we can't hit the Labour Party's original desire, maybe we can help them along the way and join up with some technology things that they can use, perhaps after. You know, I mean, we don't know when the next election is, right? So we don't really know when the date is. But as a way of raising funds within RChain Europe and advertising what we're doing, I just thought it was an excellent idea that, you know, Andreas mentioned. And I saw an email from Ayla earlier today about what should we do with the Labour Party. And so part of the discussion, one of the key points to report was probably next week on the agenda will be a much more of a working session where we're going to try and put together a value proposition around this. Yeah. So as RChain Europe, part of our objectives written into our bylaws is to to implement some expression of wish. It doesn't say it all has to be digital, right? So this is just a journey towards digital. And this might be a first step where we kind of show ourselves above the parapets and maybe earn a few euros along the way, maybe finding some European funding to support additional efforts. So we also did talk about the sort of funding arrangements and what we could do to ease the situation. So I'm going to just put a full stop there because Andreas and Nick were both there, and they might want a few words. And I'm handing over the stick back to Ayla to beat people off if they speak too long.
Lovely, thanks. So, Nick and Andreas, what would you like to
where to start? So like in the chat, somebody just proposed we should also include our portfolio companies like Govern, and I'm again really glad that Ned once included us in set us up with those contacts. So in the last 2 weeks we had several calls with Govern actually, who are really appreciating the different attempts we had in regards to DGOV work yet, where we started with external user stories, mainly coming from the expression of wish, but also some internal perspectives on how we would like to work together, as Steve already described, and also once again the mapping. So we are working on those levels and sharing the outcomes we have found. But since yesterday we included them in the expression of wish calls as well, and afterwards we received a mail from Carl, who really gave us good feedback and was thankful for the insights. That will continue to go in the direction that most likely we can use that tool also for the proposal for the Labour Party. And if this is meant to be as one use case, one reference for RChain Europe as well, we could further include Govern, but also NetVote in our consultancy work that we will sooner or later sell to other organizations and people who are interested in DGOV practices, help in evaluating their use cases and challenges they have, where we could suggest the right tools for them and help them implement them, create documentaries so they can show it to their own audiences, which is pretty much what is also within the proposal I started today, Steve. I can give you an insight in this next Tuesday. So this is how we started to work a bit more practically, all sharpened by our financial situation, and hopefully we'll create some outcomes from this. In addition, we also started to look into different financial opportunities, which was actually kicked off by Peter maybe 2 weeks ago. Now we created a comparison with different funding options coming from EU or the German government, but also different collaboration possibilities with partners. We mentioned already Govern or the Labour Party, but also we are in contact with a potential client called Rubicon, where we were in a call with Greg and Stephen the other week. So it's all kind of like small but low-hanging fruits, hopefully, that we can sustain our financial situation here. And one of the outcomes from this comparison of the financial tools might be that we are able to apply for a governmental fund that's quite big and seems to be easy to achieve, where they focus on US and German collaborations in the field of decentralization of web. So it fitted pretty well into our collaboration, what we are running anyway. So we might soon come back on you guys to work on some content for this.
Right. This is all good stuff. I wanted to respond to Steve a little bit. Steve, when we set up RChain Co-op US, we addressed the whole issue of minutes versus recordings. The board at the time felt that they did not want to release recordings because otherwise the board members might not feel comfortable speaking freely. I sort of understood where they were coming from. I was advocating to release recordings of board meetings, but there was a general sentiment that there might be, conversations that are governed by non-disclosure, and
Greg?
Greg.
Sorry, and other kinds of sensitive conversations.
Yeah, we haven't had that problem yet, so we're not in that boat. Yeah, we may come across that. You never know.
Exactly, especially as you start having clients like the Labor Party.
It could be.
You might hit something like that. So what we did was to adopt a policy that the recordings would be sent out to all the attendees of the meeting and for review before any publication could be considered. As you say, the minutes sort of represent an actionable summary.
I think this would be so much better if it was written in Rolang. This would be a super smart contract, picking up the attendees until some state change in the recording allows it to be seen wider. I mean, yeah, really, it should be, shouldn't it?
Well, I hear you. I'll be really blunt and honest. I really loved programming and the orderliness of programs and things like that. But I do believe that currently we don't have anything like the kind of intentional sophistication that we have with human agency, and so I don't want to reduce everything to smart contracts.
But the process, if you consider a human, no, I'm going pi calculus on you now. So a human can process anyway, right? And there are some things that we can observe in our digital world and some things that are not applicable. So we might set that boundary up. But ultimately, people emit events. Those events get captured. So on the other side, if those are events that are being emitted by some willful act of pressing a button on a screen, then you can capture the process by which people can endorse a recording for later publication, but only those people that are listed in the metadata on the movie that were attendees.
Yeah, so
in that way, it's kind of like Elsevier's publishing model. The paper doesn't get seen by everybody. It gets seen by the author and the reviewers. That's a smart contract.
Oh, agreed with that. I agree with you on that point, 100%. Yes. It's an example I've used in many talks.
Yeah. In the unlikely event I ever get any time to be a complete geek, if I do, I think I might write that contract.
Okay. Fantastic,
anyway,
Steve. We'll get back to you on that. Thanks. I just want to make sure that if there's anyone in this call who wants to ask a question or has any comments, please, there's time for that. Please let us know. Are there any questions? Announcements?
Oh, Ella, it's Nick here.
Hi, Nick.
Just a quick question about the structures for some of those grant applications.
Yes.
You said several of those have to be from non-profits.
No, only one. The one I
it's only one. Okay,
so it's only that. Sent you guys today, the Civitas. It's particularly interesting for us because the deadline is already by the end of November.
No, exactly. That's what I was looking at.
One pager, but we are not eligible to apply as a co-op. But if there would be an NGO or anything that you are collaborating with, I think it would be great in the UK because it's such a good. You guys have such a big showcase coming up. So in the field of digital democracy, and I think that would be amazing. All the other stuff that we are currently working on, we can be lead, we can be project lead. Without, okay. So
Ella, I would, you know, the Arts Cooperative in London that you introduced me to.
Yeah, Ruth Kedlow from Furtherfield.
Yeah, so I would ask Ruth if you haven't already. I would ask.
Yeah, you know, Ruth was here on Monday. She was at Supermarkt, and she's so she is absolutely willing to partner with us. She would be absolutely up for it. I think the only thing is, like, all the applications Andreas and I figured out now is stuff that is completely doable. There is a major one, and it's a Horizon 2020 call by the European Union. This is about 3.5 million euro what we could raise. And this is, it's really, it's like, it's made for us. It's dedicated for EU, US collaborations in the field of what was it again, Andreas? I have to look it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to look it up again too. But it was somehow decentralizing and new web stuff.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm exactly, but it's a huge call. 3.5 million euro would be possible, but it's just like, it's such a big deal. It's a month's. I think it will cost us many months. Deadline is by the end of March, which for EU funding standards is already quite soon.
Yeah.
And I'm just very realistic about the workload and everything. But Ruth, for instance, she would be totally eager to partner up with us on that. I'm currently asking my friend Sönke from University of Saar, because he went through a lot of EU applications, whether he would like to be one of the lead partners. Because we can't do it by ourselves. It's just too big. But this would be, it sounds as if it would be tailor-made for us. US, EU, a call on exactly the topic we are working on. And we are having such a great showcase. We could actually take, thanks, Andreas. That's the call. Andreas has
NGI stands for Next Generation Internet.
Next Generation Internet, EU-US collaboration on Next Generation Internet. So we could take our current moment where we are at and turn it into an asset with all the questions we have, with all the complexities we have, and try to create a research project out of that. It's a big deal, though. It's nothing we can do in a week. But it's.
Do we know? Have you got any information on who has put consortia together in this space?
Not yet, but it's the most prominent institutions. I'm pretty sure about that.
Right. So one way is if you can find out who's running a consortia. Sometimes the EU funding body usually provides a kind of dating kind of service, as it were, for people to know who's doing what. Because you never know where your partners are going to come from. It's really quite a tricky prospect. Yeah. And they're there to introduce you. So there is somebody that has that role in the EU in Brussels. Yeah. And their role is to introduce you or give you the list of consortia that are bidding. And then if you know that list, if you've got that list and you know anybody in those, we can approach them.
Yeah.
And join an existing consortia. That's the quickest route.
You're right.
I've heard the exact same thing, Steve, that this is a way that you can piggyback onto an existing proposal.
Right. You're right. That's
and they would want us for all the reasons you said, Ayla. So we look like the really attractive guy in the room, right? So we could be quite head turning in that regard in terms of the aspirations of RChain. So I think there's a good chance of doing that.
Yeah, and you know, like our entire arrangement. So we have two organizations, both organized as a co-op. We are independent from each other, while being dependent on each other at the same time. I mean, the EU co-op more depending on the US than vice versa. But nonetheless, there's a very interesting complexity in all of that. And I think that would already make us a really good applicant.
The dependency relationship is only current, right? Ultimately, the relationship was designed so that it's mutual.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's how we envisioned it. But remember, Greg, like our first conversation, the question you brought up, so how are the two co-ops, how are they supposed to work together? And is someone who becomes a member in the US, does he or she automatically become a member in the EU? What about this entire voting thing? So we haven't really solved all these questions. They're still very valid and they're still worthwhile to look into. And, you know, I'd love to have an opportunity to really work on that stuff, but with a solid budget. So that might be a great opportunity to do that.
Indeed, indeed. No, it's this looks like a really good possibility here. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Yeah, we would definitely need research institutions in the US as well. So the more prestigious partner we can bring to the game, the better our chances are, of course.
There's a button on that page that Andreas shared,
mm-hmm.
and it says View Edit Partner Search. Click on that and be enlightened. That will give you, I mean, and it is enlightening. You don't have to go too far, and there's Blockchain 2050 BV are offering expertise in the blockchain space. It's Dutch. There's a whole bunch. So this is the list of companies that are wanting to operate within that call. We've got to get it into some of these, right? So have a look. I'll deal with the UK ones with Nick.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So we really need to chop up the tasks, because otherwise it would be crazy. But yeah, if each of us can do a portion of the work, that would be great. So Andreas, I think what we can do in the next days, we can try to organize that, you know, into little work packages that we can distribute among this group. So we get a better sense of where we stand and who potential partners could be, maybe by next week already. That would be great.
Right. Are you in contact with Graham Mitchell from the Digital Life Collective, a UK cooperative?
Yeah, we are in touch with him. And I also sent Graham this info today, also for the Civitas call. I have invited him because he would be a fantastic person, of course, to have on board for each of these calls.
Yeah, the social ledger team at Digital Life Collective are all RChain members.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, Graham is such a he's a rich resource, really. And we've also had a conversation on Monday, and I'm really glad that he not only became member of RChain Europe, but he also, I mean, he's a very helpful and considerate person. So yeah, but he's in the loop. He's aware of all of that.
Right, and Digital Life Collective is also going into the area of cooperation as a service.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any more questions, ideas, and comments? Maybe let's see. Peter.
I'd like to make a report.
Oh, Jonathan, hello.
Yeah, I'd like to make a report from RChain Asia.
Please.
I've just spent the past 2 days in Korea, and I was invited to speak at the Global Leaders Forum, which was sponsored by a former member of the United Nations Future Forum. And it turns out that an entire province in Korea, Gyeongbong-suk, just elected a minister or a prime minister whose platform was to turn the province into a blockchain center of excellence. And they're dedicating $400 million to create a blockchain center of excellence. I've been appointed one of the 15 people for the Gyeongbong-suk Do Center with Brock Pierce, famous from Bitcoin Center, EOS, etc., and many others. Also, one of our platform partners, Switch, is involved with this. And they're dedicating, again, $400 million to blockchain development. They have lodging and office space that they want to fill. They love RChain. They also have office space and lodging in Seoul. And so if anybody from the EU wants to come over to South Korea for a month or something and help develop RChain with this incredible support offer. And I've been talking to Nick Main a great deal, and Nick can actually make a more objective, compelling case about why South Korea is so incredibly important to the future of blockchain. So I'll let Nick spell this out so it doesn't just sound like me pitching this. Nick?
Thanks.
Oh, well, that was a surprise. Okay. Yes, South Korea is vital. It's taken a global leadership along with, I think, several digital nations, and is part of an ISO initiative in standardizing blockchain, particularly in the area of identity. I think they've got lots of very active investment in supply chain blockchain use cases. And Jonathan was just, I think, mentioned there that they're trying to regionalize their industry. So they're expanding their SME, a small, medium-sized enterprise network, and connect those guys much better to the big guys, because we all know the Samsungs, the huge corporations which have done fantastically well in globalization. But what about the small guys? What about the guys that need to get onto the digital backbone on what's called the digital Silk Road? How do those guys get onto that? So the infrastructure needs to be there, the trading infrastructure, the identity infrastructure, the social infrastructure, all of that stuff needs to be built. And it sounds like these guys, I mean, in Southeast Asia, things move so much faster than they do, for instance, in the UK. When you can talk about these ideas for years in the UK, but people get it, but the chances of doing something politically, it's so very, very slow. Absolutely not the case in Asia. Things happen fast there, as Jonathan has just explained there. It's fantastic what they could do and probably will do.
Yeah, and the goal for the newly voted in governor for the province, who again campaigned on a platform of turning the province into a blockchain mecca, is to get 220,000 companies onto the blockchain as soon as possible. And they have funding, and they have lodging, and they have office space.
Yeah, so that's fantastic.
Sounds incredible.
And they have Bim Bim Bap.
They do.
Bibimbap. Yeah, that's another good reason. Absolutely. Wow, but Jonathan, this is great news. Congratulations. So you will be directly involved in the development of that center.
Yes.
Fantastic. So what are the first things that you're going to do in this?
I want to populate it with as many people from RChain as possible so that we get a leg up. Currently in Korea, the default blockchain platform is Icon, which is a fine platform, but it's a native run or native born platform, has a home team advantage because partly of the linguistic difference. Most Koreans do not speak English. It's not like other Southeast Asian countries, for example. So if we get a good foothold here, we stand to make great inroads in being the non-Korean blockchain platform of choice for 220,000 companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jonathan, I wanted to ask, does RChain Asia have a status as a corporate entity? Does it have a legal status?
I have filed for an incorporation in Singapore. The name is TBA or TBD. I've purposely left it open because I didn't know what the status of the organization should be.
And is that corporation that you filed for a cooperative?
No.
Is there a plan to have an Asian cooperative?
Not under my watch. It's going to be a for-profit organization.
Co-ops or for-profit?
I really don't want the organization. Whatever organization that I create is not going to be a co-op, and that's just where I stand.
Ah, okay. So that was really good to hear. So I think one of the nice things about the U.S.-Europe relationship is the belief in the cooperative model. But it sounds like RChain, that you don't believe in the cooperative model.
I don't believe in it for the organization that I'm personally incorporating to be as open and flexible as possible, because within the Singaporean system, at least, cooperatives create some unnecessary complications with respect to obtaining funding from foundations and venture capital and so forth. So I'm purposely making a organization that is as flexible as possible for obtaining funding, since obtaining funding right now is so uncertain.
Mm. Yeah, Jonathan, I totally get your point, and I think it's an absolute fair decision, I have to say, because I mean we are facing very concretely the problem that a German co-op is not made for venture capital. You know, it's all tied to a good membership program where you are able to raise funds within the membership, or maybe a little bit of fundraising through, I don't know, foundations, etc. here and there. But like, you know, this model that we, you know, that we put venture capital in a co-op does not really work. Is also not really sustainable for a co-op. So for me, you know, the thing is, if you would ask me, my personal opinion is I entirely believe in cooperativism, and I believe in co-op model. That's how I want to work. But my feeling is we still haven't found the right organizational form that really allows for transnational collaboration, that really allows for, you know, the kind of governance we actually need. And there are so many people struggling with the co-op model, especially when it's related to blockchain technologies. Simply it's such a novel terrain, and none of us really knows how to do it. We are among the first. We are really among the first to embark on that journey. And it's incredibly, like this learning curve we are having is incredible. We should really make sure to let others benefit from that. But I completely get your point. And what I can get out of it is we just need to continue to find the organizational forms that works for us as a network. I don't think we are there yet.
In Florida, the co-op structure is designed exclusively for farming. So we would not be a co-op in Florida, but we can still follow cooperative principles, I think, which is the criteria for getting a .coop designation as either an LLC or an S corp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I like your notion of cooperative principles, Jim, and I think that is really the interesting thing. I believe it's absolutely possible to even run a limited if you have a firm set of values and cooperative principles, you know, within the organization. I think it's all doable, but you know, in the end, it really comes down to what it is that we're going to achieve. So I think there's still a lot of stuff to do on that end.
I just want to say that I feel quite strongly that if we look carefully, there wasn't a drop of VC money that went into RChain, and the VCs in general completely missed blockchain. They were kicking themselves again and again and again. For the traditional VCs, the Panteras, the Sequoias, they all missed the first wave and the second wave of blockchain. It was only the very, very adventurous that caught on to that caught on to the opportunities within blockchain. But more importantly, I think we all understand that a public blockchain is what we're seeking. And do we really want standard corporate governance on a public utility like that?
My personal opinion, no. But all I'm saying is this co-op model, the traditional co-op model, still needs to be expanded and developed further in order to meet the needs of a public blockchain co-op.
I agree 100%. No one in their right mind would think that the co-op model was without modification going to fit blockchain. But Steve, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think the realization in RChain Europe, particularly from the expression of risk stuff, and very much what you said, Ayla, that we're kind of like out in front at the moment. It's bizarre. It's like we're out in front of a marathon, and we didn't know we were running one, right? And suddenly we're out in front. And I think the normal organizational structures that we've relied on for a century or more. I mean, some of the early co-ops were developed in the UK. Those models are not really fit for purpose in the modern world. It's just nobody's really tested the cooperative models in this way before. And so clearly they will evolve. And what's nice is that we're at the head of that wave. We're going to help that happen. That's the way I see it anyway.
Hopefully.
And the point I'd like to make is that the vision of RChain was to have a diversity of different governance models and in different jurisdictions that had plasticity and were appropriate to the particular situations. And from my very, very careful analysis with other people, for right now, it makes most sense for what the entity that I'm incorporating in Singapore to be a for-profit non-co-op model so that we could move very quickly because things happen very quickly in Asia.
And I think, Jonathan, that gives us the heterogeneity of structures that we need. And if we didn't have one, we'd have to go and find one. So well done you. I think that's going to be an interesting journey for all of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there's a nice comment from Nick in the chat. I think you can make most things work if you spend time on the principles and doing the basic design so that people know where they are. I think that's exactly, that's a good point. And I think this goes for each of us, right?
Well, but I think it's actually really, really also, I'm gonna add counterpoint to this.
Sure.
Especially as we've seen with the emergence of Casper Labs, there are two major risks in a situation like this. One is that the community who has become accustomed to, for all its flaws, the cooperative model and the level of input, engagement, and governance that they've had. To think that will carry over in a VC-funded situation, that they will be sorely disappointed. And number two, there also has to be education about what the platform means, because I know, at least in the case of Casper Labs, there's a lot that's potentially on the chopping block, including Rolang, including RSpace, including many, many things that actually make this a superior platform. The behavioral type system, all of that's on the chopping block. But again, because the market doesn't go very deep in its analysis of what's being offered, you can mention fork of RChain and everyone thinks they get all these features, when in fact they get, only Casper and not even the same implementation of Casper as the one that we're pursuing with mathematical proofs around. So I think we have to be really, really careful. As much as I support and wholeheartedly believe in decentralization, we have to be very, very careful about what it is we're advertising as RChain.
And Greg, I'm not, RChain Asia is not planning to, do development or fork the network. This development, we're forming and needing to be nimble.
No, I understand. I mean, I think there's lots of there's lots of room for all kinds of different models. I just think we have to be super, super clear about managing our community's expectations and being really clear about what our principles are with respect to governance and what our principles are with respect to the technology that we deliver, and being able to objectively talk about the adherence to the vision that's been laid out. And the nice thing about the vision being expressed in mathematics is that that's relatively easy to assess. But with that, I actually have to jump to another call.
Yeah.
As always, a fantastically invigorating and exciting discussion.
Absolutely, and I think we really hit the core of what we're going to have to discuss in the next weeks and months. Thanks. Thanks everyone for the call.
Thanks,
I really
Ayla.
enjoyed it, and good luck to everyone. Lots of success for everything that you plan. Look forward to see you next week.
Yeah, well done, Jonathan. Brilliant news.
Yeah, good
Thanks
news.
all. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye
So
bye.
contact me if you want to come to Korea and have free room and board and office space and support from the Korean government.
I'm on Skyscanner at the moment. Flights are looking pricey.
Okay. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.